6:47, global supertanker departing McClellan Air Force Base. Head back to the campfire on Tuesday, 13 November, about noon. Visibility's good down here, about 4 miles. We'll go see if we can get a closer look at this today. It's Tuesday, the 13th of November. I'm here at the McClellan Reload Base near Sacramento, California, with an exclusive behind-the-scenes look of how these very large air tanker operations get turned around and refilled with retardant here at the McClellan Reload Base. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel. Check it out. This is day 6 of the campfire now, and conditions have improved just enough to where the very large air tankers can operate throughout most of the day today. They got a little bit of a late start waiting for the smoke to lift just enough to where they can get in there and get to work. They're primarily working on what's called the Big Bend area, the hot spots of the fire. They're doing indirect attack to try to keep that fire corralled. Remember, the fire slopped over a bit of Highway 70 heading towards the Oroville Reservoir, so the crews are working to try to stop that fire there. Of course, the fire has long since burned through Paradise, California. They're just now counting the number of fatalities, and so now not only is the campfire the most destructive wildfire in California history, it is now the deadliest. The areas in red are the areas of active fire, so as you can see, the fire is just now burning out on the edges. To date, the campfire has scorched almost 129,000 acres, is about 30% contained, 7,639 structures destroyed, and 48 fatalities. Marked in orange is where the large air tankers have been able to work today. The DC-10 pulling in here has about a 9,000 gallon retardant tank system, and can get turned around in as short as 15 minutes. And here comes the most important thing, lunch. A pit stop at the Indy 500. These guys are able to load retardant and fuel at the same time and turn them around in 15 minutes. So how do you get your lunch in a VLAT? Well, you don't have air stairs anymore, so you send down a bucket on a rope and send it up to the crew, and there's your lunch. These guys got to keep blowing and going. They ain't got time to get off the airplane and eat lunch. Dinner served, boys. Bon appetit. So here's all 3 hoses hooked up, pumping simultaneously, getting you the 9,000 gallons in about 15 minutes. It's an external tank bolted on to the belly of the DC-10, so they didn't have to cut into the fuselage in this tanker design. A gravity-operated tank system. These tanks are not pressurized. They also got maintenance folks that come and check the tires, tire pressures, oil, that sort of thing with each 15-minute turn. There's the outflow valve for your pressurization. The stock pressurization system is still intact on these large air tankers, allowing them to achieve the high altitudes that they are originally designed to fly at, giving these tankers the global reach to fight fires around the world. So with these 3 tanks, they're all computer controlled to vary the coverage level, and or by varying the coverage level, you can cover the distance and the length of your line of retardant. So CAL FIRE says these are a very reliable platform. They've been very reliable, very good on maintenance. Look, the fuel's already done. So when they load these tanks, they got to open the vents, you know, to allow the retardant in as quick as it is. And now the maintenance crew's got to ensure that all the vent tanks are closed. If you see a trail of retardant on takeoff, maybe one of those vents was left open.
Our firefighters don't do any loading and fixing.
Okay. 747 coming in. DC-10 heading out.
Growing up around the air tanker industry, I never thought I would ever see a 747 air tanker.
Wow, that thing is just huge.
This 747-400 came from Japan Airlines. Tanker 912 heading back out to the campfire.
Now the 747 has a considerably different system. It's all internal to the aircraft. It's about 19,000 gallons of retardant. It's a pressurized system that's squirted out. So the retardant is brought in through these lines here. These lines are dropped out from the inside of the aircraft, connected to this manifold. That hog drop there just catches the drippings, and the retardant is pumped in. Back here is a giant air compressor that is recharging the system. The entire system must be recharged from the ground. I do not believe it has onboard compressors on the aircraft to pressurize the system. And that pressurization is what gives you your proper coverage level out of your nozzles.
Here's a look at the pressurized tank system inside the Supertanker.
The device in the yellow briefcase is how you monitor your tank quantities from the ground. This pit stop for the 747 will take about 30 minutes, dealing with the pressurized system, and at the same time they're getting serviced and fuel. Still, the crews remain up in the cockpit and get their lunch fed up to. Here they come now. Here comes lunch, boys. Now, one of the advantages of flying a very large air tanker as opposed to some of the smaller aircraft, they still have the onboard bathrooms are serviceable here, so they can just stay up there all day long. It looks like they're going to bring their lunch up with the ladder now. Here's the discharge nozzles on the 747 up to coverage, well, beyond coverage level 8. They can squirt out of there, straight down, and it makes a mess.
Coverage level refers to how thick the retardant lays on the vegetation below. Typical drop height is 150 feet above the foliage.
Because of the complexity of reloading reloading operation here on the 7.4, McClellan Field is the only place here in California where these guys can operate out of, where they can reload out of. In the future, San Bernardino may be a second base capable of handling the global supertanker 747.
These aircraft can cost as much as $16,000 an hour to operate, not including retardant and daily standby costs.
Last year with the big firestorms, McClellan Air Force Base pumped about 4 million gallons worth of retardant. This year, they're already over 6 million gallons. The next closest retardant base numbers are on the order of about 2 million gallons. So McClellan is the leader in pumping retardant. 1 hour round trip evolution to the campfire and back in Butte County from here at McClellan Air Force Base, including the drop, takes these crews about 1 hour. With today's shorter hours of daylight here in the middle of November, the 747 with its 30-minute turn time can get about 4 load and returns in 1 day. The DC-10 with its somewhat shorter loading time can get maybe 5 or 6 loads dropped in 1 day. Both of these air tankers still operate with a crew of 3, a pilot, co-pilot, and flight engineer. The VLATs, the very large air tankers, and most of the large air tankers, what I call the medium-sized ones, they are still IFR certified, so they can get in and out of here at McClellan when the visibility is less than 3 miles. Your smaller air tankers, of course, are strictly VFR. Anytime any of these air tankers are dropping on the fire, conditions have to be VFR, visual flight rules, to drop. Each of these large air tankers requires a lead plane. The lead plane is the guy determining that they have the visibility or not to effectively use these resources.
The lead plane is a small bird dog aircraft that safely leads the tankers in and out of the fire area and shows them where to drop. And was the job I was training up to do some 20 years ago before the airlines called.
This is the mixing plant here at McClellan Air Force Base. 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks, each tank 25,000 gallons each for a total of 100,000 gallons of retardant. These tanks are powered by 2 electric pumps, 1,000 gallons per minute each. The electric pumps are recent upgrades. There's a backup diesel pump right here. This tank is an offload tank, as not all air tankers are allowed to land fully loaded. That's why they don't load them up until they got an order to fly them, and if in the event they need to unload retardant to go somewhere other than a fire, they can offload that retardant here. This tank is going to get upgraded to an even larger size to accommodate the 19,000 gallons and the 747. The mixing plant at McClellan Reload Base. Across the way in the warehouse is where the unlimited amount of Phos-Chek dry powder retardant is stored, and it's stored here for a number of bases. But here at McClellan, all they got to do is run the forklift over there, get that retardant, bring it up here, and mix it. There you can see it's stored back there.
Here's some of the main ingredients found in today's modern fire retardant.
The whole idea of aerial application of fire retardant to fires is to do just that, retard or slow the rate of spread of the fire. Usually it's done by indirect attack away from the flames that gives firefighters a break to where they get the time to get in there and cut proper dozer lines or hand lines. This is how that fire retardant is mixed. So here's how they get the dry retardant mixed into the tanks. It's with an air induction system. This hose is going to be connected right there into the bottom of the bag, and then suck the dry retardant into the wet tanks. And there they'll be mixed in the tanks. Here's another bag of retardant coming now. Phos-Check fire retardant, of course, pink in color so the pilots can see where the line of retardant stops and ends on the ground. Sometimes you gotta persuade the material from caking up with a nice sized mallet. Loosen it up. Get it ready to dispense. These employees all work for the retardant manufacturer, which used to be known as Phos-Check, but today, Perimeter Solutions. Well, I hope you enjoyed this exclusive look behind the scenes of how air retardant reloading operations work for these very large air tankers. I've learned a lot today, and I hope you have too. I want to especially thank the folks of CAL FIRE for giving us such great, such great access to the operation here today.
See you here.